The hangar bay reeked of ozone and scorched metal. Dozens of alien soldiers, scaled, furred, and plated in polished carapace armor, had their plasma rifles leveled at one woman standing in the center of the blast-marked floor. Captain Elara Myles, Terran Defense Corps, hands raised, palms outward. Her exosuit hummed faintly under her skin-tight combat weave, but she'd powered down most of its systems to avoid looking hostile. Least for now. The alien commander, a towering figure with silvery blue skin and a ceremonial crest like blades of glass, stepped forward. His armor glowed with command glyphs, the mark of the Vandrex Dominion, the largest empire in this quadrant of space. "Human," he hissed, his voice a chorus of layered tones. "You are trespassing in restricted Dominion territory. Disarm her." The order echoed off the hangar walls. Weapons clicked. Dozens of barrels locked onto Elara's chest. And then she smiled. "Lowly. Only." "That," she said, lowering her voice just enough for the nearest soldiers to hear, "is your first mistake." The capture. 2 hours earlier her corvette, the Iron Finch, had been ambushed. Vandrex ships had decloaked in orbit over Raxus 9, an abandoned mining moon. It wasn't supposed to be occupied, but intel was wrong. They'd been running a secret weapons test site, something massive, judging by the energy signatures. Elara and her 3-person crew had barely had time to react before the Dominion's gravlances shredded their engines. She'd ejected the black box, wiped their data cores, and ordered the crew to flee in escape pods. She'd stayed behind to buy them time. Now she was here, hands up, surrounded, staring down 100 alien soldiers who thought a single human was something they could intimidate. To the commander. Commander Vortal of the 9th Blade was old enough to remember when his species first encountered humans. He hadn't been impressed. Primitive. Fragile. Emotional. They'd barely survived their own atmosphere before crawling into space. He stepped closer to her now, studying her stance. Her eyes didn't dart or tremble. Her pulse, according to his helmet scan, was steady. Too steady. "Drop your weapons," he repeated, signaling to his soldiers to move in. "I would," Elara said evenly, "if I had any left to drop." A ripple of uncertain laughter broke among the alien ranks. Vortal didn't smile. He gestured sharply. "Strip the human of her armor. I will not risk her hiding a blade." The first soldier approached, a hulking insectoid with twin mandibles and armor thicker than tank plating. He reached for her gauntlet. That was when Elara moved. 3. The first mistake. Her suit lit up, white-blue veins of kinetic energy threading across her frame. A microsecond pulse from her internal fusion cell reignited the combat systems she'd kept dormant. The soldier's hand hadn't even touched her before she twisted, slammed her elbow into his throat joint, and launched upward with a burst of exosuit-assisted strength. He flew backward, crashing into 2 more troopers. "Engage!" Vortal barked. Bolts of plasma erupted in the hangar. Elara moved like lightning. Every dodge, every leap was pre-mapped in her neural link. She grabbed a fallen alien rifle mid-spin and fired. 3 shots precise. Not to kill, but to disable power packs, melt targeting optics, blind the enemy with their own weapons' explosions. In 10 seconds, half the hangar was chaos. Vortal's crest flickered with disbelief. How are you doing this? Your suit should have been locked by our dampeners." Elara ducked behind a wrecked shuttle wing and grinned. "You think we don't adapt? You've been studying Terran tech, Commander. Not Terran minds. For the Ghost Protocol. The Vandrex were infamous for reverse engineering everything they conquered. But human engineers had learned that the hard way. So the Terran Defense Corps started installing Ghost Protocols. Adaptive algorithms that learned an enemy's interference signals and rewrote the neural firmware on the fly. Her suit wasn't immune to their dampeners. It had simply learned them. She vaulted over the shuttle wing, firing the alien rifle until it hissed dry. Her HUD tagged power relays, escape doors, structural weaknesses. Every movement was tactical poetry. Then a shockwave hit her. Vortal had raised his personal weapon, a tricore gravity cannon, the kind that could crush a tank. It hurled her backward, slamming her into a wall. The suit groaned. Her ribs did too. Vortal stepped forward, weapon humming. "You are a warrior. I will grant you that. But your kind," he gestured to the chaos, "is obsolete. You are singular. We are legion." Elara spat blood, wiped her mouth, and looked up. "Yeah," she smiled. "Then maybe you should have brought more legions." The counterstrike. Her fingers danced across her wrist console. The hangar lights flickered. She'd been transmitting data through her suit since the moment she was captured, piggybacking on the Dominion's own network frequencies. It wasn't just her suit that had adapted. She'd been hacking their ship the entire time. Emergency sirens blared. Shield generators overloaded. Gravity fluctuated, sending soldiers floating and slamming against walls. Vortal roared. "Stabilize the core. Contain her." Elara pushed herself up. Her body screamed, but her focus didn't waver. "I told you," she said, raising her hands again. "Not in surrender this time, but in command. That's your first mistake." She clenched her fists. The Dominion flagship Shriek of Varn began tearing itself apart from the inside. 6. The fire within. On the bridge, alarms cascaded. Fire suppression drones swarmed. Subsystem failures erupted faster than the engineers could patch them. Elara's virus, a Terran digital phantom, ripped through the Dominion systems, rewriting control hierarchies, rerouting power. Vortal's communications blinked out. His command link was dead. His soldiers, confused and panicking, fired in random bursts as bulkheads sealed and decks depressurized. "You'll kill us all," Vortal shouted over the din. Elara limped toward him through smoke and sparks. "Only if I wanted to." She pressed a control stud on her gauntlet. The explosions ceased. The ship stabilized barely. Every soldier froze, realizing she'd just spared them. "I'm not your enemy," she said. "But if you ever set foot on another Terran colony again," she stepped closer, meeting his unblinking eyes. "Next time I won't stop the fire." 7. The bargain. Vortal stared at her. This small, wounded human who'd just taken his ship hostage with nothing but a suit and sheer defiance. His crest dimmed, a Vandrex sign of shame. "You could destroy us," he rasped. Elara shook her head. "No. I could teach you something instead." He tilted his head, confused. She deactivated her visor, revealing her face. Bloodied lip, sweat-streaked brow. Human eyes burning with that impossible Terran fire. "You think strength comes from numbers," she said. "From domination. But strength, real strength, comes from choice. You rule by fear. We survive by will. That's why you'll never understand us." Vortal's claws flexed. "And if I order my soldiers to kill you now?" She smiled faintly. "You won't." Because she'd already given the ship's AI one last command. Any weapon fired within this hangar, on anyone but me, would trigger the ship's reactor failsafe. He glanced at his wrist display, confirming it. His crest flickered again, this time in respect. "What do you want, Terran?" "Freedom for my crew. And your word that Dominion forces withdraw from Raxus. 9. Permanently." He considered, then lowered his weapon. Done. Aftermath. Minutes later, a shuttle detached from the Shriek of Varn, streaking toward the stars. Inside, Elara sat slumped in the pilot's seat, her suit flickering from damage. Her comm crackled. "Captain, it's Mason. You're alive." She smiled weakly. "Define alive. How's the crew?" "Safe. You bought us enough time." "What about the Dominion ship?" Elara looked back at the fading speck of light behind her. "Let's just say they learned what happens when you underestimate a human." She leaned back, letting the hum of the engines lull her into exhausted calm. 9. The legend. Weeks later, stories began to spread. Not through human channels but through Dominion networks. They called her the Flame Hand. The human who walked into a ship of 1,000 warriors and made them stand down. The human who fought not with rage, but with control. And somewhere deep in Dominion space, Commander Vortal stood before his council. "She could have destroyed us," one advisor sneered. "Yes," Vortal said quietly. "And that is why we should fear her kind." The advisor frowned. "Because they are dangerous." Vortal turned toward the stars. "Because they are merciful." Epilogue. The next war. Months later, aboard a Terran defense station orbiting Epsilon Prime, Elara stood in a dark observation deck. The stars shimmered beyond the viewport. Beside her, a holographic report scrolled. "Dominion fleet movements have ceased near Terran colonies. Temporary ceasefire declared." She took a long breath. It wouldn't last. Never did. But for now it was enough. A soft chime sounded behind her. Mason entered, holding 2 mugs of synthetic coffee. "You really think they'll keep their word?" Elara took 1 mug, her eyes still on the stars. "For a while. The Vandrex respect power. And mercy." He chuckled. "You think mercy scares them?" She nodded. "More than any weapon we've ever built." The comm light blinked red. "Incoming transmission. High priority." Lara sighed. "Duty calls." Mason grinned. "Another Dominion trap." She smiled faintly, setting down her mug and adjusting her damaged exosuit's gauntlet. The glow reignited. "Doesn't matter," she said, turning toward the hangar bay. "They can order Disarm Her all they want." The light in her eyes sharpened, fierce and human. "They'll never learn what that really means."